This is Justin Zimmerman. This is my final project for the FMT 122 course. This is a addressable LED setup. It uses an Arduino. An Arduino is a form of PLC controller, a PLC. It controls a signal being sent to the LEDs, which are wired in series to each other, meaning one wired after the other. So they are one is sending the output. One input is sending the output to the next. So as I turn it on here, you're going to see the 5-volt transformer from 120 volt power coming from the wall. It gets converted to 5 volt, which the Arduino and the LEDs are more efficient, and they like to run at that voltage. So I turn it on, you're going to see the blue because the Arduino is not communicating. It's going to start through its boot sequence. And if you hit the lights, you're going to see each LED being able to address itself with an individual color, which is unlike Art's Cube up front, which is an analog setup, meaning each LED is a single color. These are RGB LEDs, meaning they have three LED dyes inside them, so that they can produce red, green, or blue, and every color in between. As you can see, they can perform some crazy combinations, and this is what you would typically find in like a stadium setup, like a stadium screen. They would have a bunch of these programmed together, and it will display your sporting event or whatever you need to display. It's over 500 solder connections, 4 per each LED. There's 125 LEDs. It's a 5x5x5 setup. It took me over 40 hours to complete in just soldering alone. I did a lot of things wrong and I did a lot of things right. I would do a lot of things differently, like smaller rod. I used 12 gauge copper rod for the anode and the cathode for each LED. It took a while for me to heat up the anode and the cathode for the solder to accept it. If you know about soldering, you know you have to heat up the metal you are trying to solder to before you can actually solder to it. So as you can see, it works. If one LED gets disrupted, the whole thing goes into complete chaos. I've actually broke it multiple times. That's why I told everyone or people not to touch it. If I just touch one of the inputs or the outputs, you can see how sensitive it is, and it starts to go into complete chaos. So it's very sensitive. These specific LEDs have a controller in them, so that makes them addressable. So it just takes one little output from the Arduino, and it's able to control as many LEDs as the transformer that it's tied to can handle. I have a 10 amp transformer because at full load, which I think is yellow or green color, which it takes the most power, it draws about 6 amps. So I figured a 10 amp transformer would be plenty, and I use an Arduino Nano, which is a condensed form version of this PLC controller, which is just like our Compaq Logix Allen Bradley controllers, which have inputs and outputs that can have different sensors and different things attached to it. So it's just another form of how we can control sensors, relays, and other things like that. So this is what I did my presentation on, and I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? No questions? Okay.
Just applause, man.
Great job.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
good job.
Thank you.
What, I have a question, Justin. Like, what's the typical cost for like a setup like this?
So the LEDs cost me about $20 from eBay. 125 LEDs cost me about $22. The Arduino and the wiring itself costed probably another 20 bucks, and the box and the wiring and the assorted parts cost probably another 20, so under $100 probably.
Pretty affordable hobby if you were to kind of try to mimic the same setup at home or something,
They
right?
have pre-wired ones, I realized halfway through the project, so I would have cut time and cost if I would have got the pre-wired ones. So there's definitely a lot of lessons learned in buying better product, buying the right product for the right job, pre-wired, everything on the internet. There's a lot of China stuff. It was a big learning experience. Soldering, electrical, wiring, building a box, everything was a learning experience.
What do they sell pre-wired? Like the whole
The
set?
LEDs will come pre-wired with pigtails, So that the problem I was having was actually putting the anode and the cathode, soldering them together. Whereas the ones that I was looking up come pre-soldered, or pre-soldered with 4 inches of lead on it, and I feel like that would have been easier for me to deal with. And I could have put it in a different kind of pattern or box, or maybe a pegboard kind of deal. I'm not sure, but I feel like it would be easier.
All right, I have a question.
Yeah, go for
does those light on the board do anything?
These guys?
Yeah.
This is the program being ran up here just with 5 LEDs. I can turn this I can change how many LEDs are lit, but it's very sensitive, and I just got it running today like this. As you can see, the flashing is probably because I have large wire, and the LEDs don't like the resistance being pushed through the wire, the large copper wire. So I used a capacitor in parallel with the 5 volts, and so it smoothed out some of that pulsing, but as you can see, it's still having a little bit of problem transmitting that true color, but it's definitely as best as I could get it with how I made it.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, thank you very much.